As a curator of modern and contemporary art, and as an art historian, I've been interested in the history of painting. Peter has brought something to that conversation that I find really new and different. He's making a sculptural object. He's using the actual physical properties of paint. He is making a new dynamic experience of painting with light.
The first time I met Peter Bynum, I walked into his studio not knowing quite what to expect. And I walked into basically a magical space. I was surrounded by all of these panels and paintings. Well, you didn't know whether to call them paintings or to call them sculptures or to call them happenings. But I was surrounded by these works that were all multi-layered pieces of glass. And on each piece of glass there was an individual painting. And then the paintings all came together when one glass panel was added onto another, was added onto another. You walked into a space that was lit up. It was just magical. It's the only word for it.
As a painter, he has pushed the language of painting into a new place. A layered experience that involves color and panels that stack up and physically layer the work, making it an object, a sculptural object. And certainly it changes the conversation. There's a lot going on the surface that feels semi-opaque, and then transparent layers through which I can dive into this incredible natural space, almost as if I'm going underwater. This goes so far beyond what traditional painting on canvas has ever been able to achieve before.
For me, there was such a universality to the works that he had produced. And at that particular point, I had also been looking at a project in Peekskill, New York. There were several arches, very large arches, 26 foot high by 15 feet across, arches that were under a highway that had just been constructed in the city. And when I saw Peter's work, I said, oh, this would be just perfect for a project like that. And then once we had the lighting set up, you could sense the vibrancy of the works when they're lit up at night, when they create a space that's as magical, almost, as the studio space that I walked into. We were preparing at the museum for another exhibition. And it was an exhibition which dealt with the philosophy of how everything in life interconnects. And Peter looked at the architecture of the space and started breaking it up, and then created what I would call a very holy space. But for me, it carried the resonance of the Rothko Chapel.
The light itself glowing really is this breathing element of the work that I find very dynamic. And I'm interested in this trajectory of artists through time who have really had the subject not be the landscape, but be the light. And Peter, I think, is in that lineage.